Hello everybody, James here, and good news! After, no joke, an entire month, Rampage Jackson has finally been arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department following his aggravated assault / attempted murder of independent pro wrestler SykoStu at the Knox Pro Wrestling training facility co-owned by WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi and his cousin Rodney Anawahi, and I'm not going to say better known as, but also known as Black Pearl. Now, I'll do a very quick recap, for the one person who may have clicked on this video who doesn't know what this situation is. But you've basically all seen the video, you've all seen all the articles and the rebuttals and other people talking about it who are there and not there, and then the other angle with a second video taken by another audience member. But Rampage Jackson, once again, for the one person who doesn't know, is the son of UFC legend Quentin Rampage Jackson. Raja was invited to a wrestling show by some cowboy gimmick wrestler guy. Stu lightly bonked an empty beer can on Raja's head, believing him to be a fellow pro wrestler, and that, I guess he would sell it or whatever it would be. Anyway, Raja didn't. He wasn't hurt. He later indicated on his live stream he wasn't hurt at all. But his little feelings were hurt over it because he was punked or disrespected or whatever bullshit crybaby term he wants to put on it, because, I don't know, he's got no sense of humour and he's a dangerous psychopath. Once again, Stu absolutely shouldn't have done it. It wasn't on. But once again, it's not exactly the kind of crime that should be punishable by death. Stu apologised profusely upon realising the mistake. Raja refused to accept the apology until, once again, wrestling co-owner Black Pearl told Raja that he could get his revenge and a receipt on SykoStu later on during the show. And then all of a sudden Raja immediately shook Stu's hand, and instead of, squashing the beef, at least in his mind, Stu's mind, it was all sorted. But in Raja's mind, well, I've sort of suckered him in now. He won't be expecting what I'm going to do to him later. And that's just not conjecture. That is Rampage Jackson live streaming the entire event unbroken for 2.5, 3 hours or something ridiculous like that, where he basically admits all of his thought processes, as well as other people coming on the live stream and talking about it and basically incriminating themselves and Rampage Jackson more. Once again, during the show, Raja was given the cue to actually attack Stu during the show, but in a fake way or whatever it was going to be. Raja then ran into the ring, slammed Stu unconscious because he gave him an MMA-style slam where he didn't drop him on his back flat. He purposely threw him where he was, rolling backwards, and then that whiplash effect to the back of his head hit the canvas. He was knocked out immediately. And then Raja punched Stu's unconscious head and face and mouth and all that kind of thing 24 times, or nearly 24 times, over the course of 10-11 seconds before he was finally stopped by a fellow wrestler called Douglas Malo. His name will be coming up once again quite a few times in this. Stu was left unconscious, bleeding, choking on his own blood, and a number of teeth that had been knocked out, and he's still dealing with the effects because brain injuries can take a very long time to heal themselves, and in some cases they never heal themselves. Anyway, police were called later that evening, but Raja absconded the scene. Hours of video footage, Raja live streamed on his own Kick channel once again. It would seemingly be the most damning of evidence for the police to work with, including all the premeditation and planning and what he's planning to do and how he hates pro wrestling and he's always wanted to mess up a pro wrestler and all this kind of thing. It was all captured. And also his apparent knowledge of the difference between real and fake was also made mention of on his own live stream. So, whatever attorney he gets is going to have a heck of a time trying to argue his way out of that one. The new trend of, once again, idiots, criminals filming their crimes is, once again, should make the LAPD's job incredibly easy. So that it makes it even weirder that it took an entire month for Rampage Jackson to be arrested. He was arrested, in the morning time, Pacific time, Thursday, 18th of September 2025. And then, once again, I'm going to, not once again, I've not done it yet. The New York Post claims that he was booked shortly before 2 p.m. So I don't know if he was arrested and then he was in a holding cell for a while, and then officially booked later. But the good news is that Jackson was charged with a felony. We don't exactly know what felony, but a felony. An online records show that he's being held on $50,000 bond. Once again, TMZ broke the news, so we'll stick with their reporting of it. And he is still in custody as far as we know. Once again, being held on $50,000 bond. He's currently still behind bars. The $50,000 bond, obviously, I guess would be because Rampage Jackson, Raja's father, in a now infamous tweet, said that he was saving college tuition up for 2 of his sons and then bail money for his third. Well, there's the bail money. That's $50,000 you'll need, unless you only need 10%, or however it works. I don't know. Anyway, there's not really much to add apart from what I've already said on this article, but I did want to make mention briefly of what Rampage said on Ariel Helwani.
Raja, I think that he should do a little time, do a little community service.
Yeah, all right. Well, really, he needs to do a lot of time, of course, rather than a bit of community service and, 40 hours painting fences or reading to old people or whatever it is. Rampage, I think, after that interview, would go back on his word, rather, because he posted a second post. He initially posted right after the incident, then a few weeks later, or a couple of weeks later, he posted all this, like, this has gone too far, I'm sick of being quiet and letting all the low IQ people, where are we hearing that phrase before, fall for clickbait. Yes, my son took things too far, I'm angry. Well, he's pissed at him for being a POS and the way he handled it, but once again, that's about as much as he sort of criticises his own son for. Then the rest of it is all SykoStu was the cause of all this, which, in fairness, I get he was the instigator, but once again, if you instigate something and then you apologise and then that apology is accepted, that is done. And the rest of it all falls on Raja's shoulders, of course, unless you're, of course, his father or some unbelievably stupid retired wrestler who's trying to stick up for Raja for some moronic reason. Drunken apologies, storylines. Stu had done some drunk shit to a fan backstage. Apparently, it's not the first time. I don't know. It didn't seem that bad to me, but whatever. Once again, I mean, it might be annoying. It might be out of order, but once again, it doesn't merit a death sentence. Other kids to protect, and Rampage is going to go to prison for defending his family, I guess, and he's getting loads of threats himself. But once again, I wouldn't have cared if a bunch of pro wrestlers would have jumped me. I'm a father first, play stupid games to win stupid prize. Once again, just trying to absolve his son as much as humanly possible. While sort of trying to have like a veneer of reasonableness at the beginning of it, but whatever. Anyway, the last post on Stu's Facebook is still that one from 31st of August where he's back home, and once again they're sort of shielding him from most of the news, which of course the news has died down for the most part. But anyway, we're sort of going off piece slightly here, because I want to talk about why did it take a whole month for Raja Jackson to be arrested. It's a serious crime, a felony charge, quote from TMZ. We don't know exactly what the felony is, whether it's felony assault or attempted murder. We don't know at this point, but I figure I actually don't know at this point. I'm going to explain why. I've actually put down, I figure felony assault, but we don't know at this point, because I'm actually equating it to UK policing as well, and this is kind of how it would work over here, which will once again highlight my confusion as to why it took an entire month. Once again, Douglas Malo, he was given a reason by the LAPD. On a previous interview, he said that Los Angeles Police Department were taking their unbelievably sweet time in actually putting Raja Jackson in cuffs because they wanted to get all their ducks in a row before making the arrest. The LAPD were also trying to figure out what offence to actually charge Raja with and to determine the level of premeditation before the attack. Well, once again, why does that take a month? I don't know if they're like heavily defunded. I don't know that much about American politics. I really don't, but I've got a decent a bit of an overview from an outside foreigner's perspective. But once again, why did that take a month? The live stream was 2 to 3 hours. Were you interviewing everybody in the audience? Were you interviewing the dust mites that happened to be there? The live stream's 2 or 3 hours. Watch it 3 times in a row. Well, that's 6 to 9 hours. That's all it should really take, for the level of premeditation. I mean, just upload it to YouTube. It's got a full transcript. It does the transcript for you. It doesn't do it that well. Obviously, you'd have to change some words for when there's mumbling or mispronunciations. But once again, it took a month to decide what to charge him with. Not to charge him, but what to charge him with. Flip a coin at that point. Goodness me. I mean, Raja was out on the streets for an entire month. He even got a fake wrestling booking out of the assault in the time that it took for him to be, for him to be charged. Right, and Doug Malo, once again, he's the guy who stopped Raja Jackson from continually punching an unconscious man. Doug was told himself as he had already been interviewed by LAPD for his side of the story, as well as confirming whatever they needed, confirming as far as all the players in this situation, and elaborating on other parts of Raja Jackson's Kick live stream. But Doug also indicated that Raja would be arrested and that there was no doubt about this. This was like a week or two ago. But seriously, after weeks and weeks of radio silence, everybody was doubting. Doubt was creeping into everybody's mind after a few days, let alone a month, of anybody invested in this story, and which was a lot of people. Another potential reason that the investigation could have been hampered, and once again I say could in, emphasising the word could, because once again this is all alleged, of course, but according to Douglas Malo, allegedly Knox Pro Wrestling was, or the management or whatever, was actively telling its wrestlers and staff to not cooperate with the police. And this is a quote from Douglas Malo. The most disgusting thing that people at this school are being encouraged to not cooperate with the police. From what I hear, the police were there investigating the scene shortly after Stu was removed, and there have been multiple requests that have gone downstream from upper management to not talk with the police directly if they are contacted, and to only let a certain group of individuals interact with the police. That is extremely dishonest. You guys let your friend almost die, and now you're trying to have people lie for you. Once again, that is Douglas Malo's position. Knox Pro have denied that they told anybody not to cooperate with police. Once again, if that ends up being true, I mean, that could, to a point, explain why things were moving a bit slower than they otherwise would, but I wanted to talk to you because I've asked a few people beforehand, before I mention this. The UK and US share a legal system, common law rather than civil law systems. There are several systems throughout the world, you need all the way down to tribal or Sharia law or whatever it might be. But the UK and US share a common law system. But everything's really different in terms of the processes. So over here, in the UK, you can be, or very specifically, I'll say England and Wales, because Scotland might do things a tiny bit differently, but I don't think they do. You can be accused of a crime or suspected of a crime. You can be brought in by the police for a formal interview, not an interrogation. That is something we don't do here. We interview, not interrogate. And then the police will decide, usually within 24 hours, whether you should be released without any further action. That's NFA. Or whether the Crown Prosecution Service wants to charge the suspect. So if they decide to charge the suspect, the CPS, I think it's like Child Protective Services in the US, but CPS here means the Crown Prosecution Service. If they do decide to charge the suspect, then now the defendant may receive bail. Now, the defendant can be bailed without conditions. So that means, no preconditions to your bail. Or they can be bailed with conditions like don't contact a certain person, don't use the internet, don't go to a certain area, things like that. Apparently, you can have monetary bail conditions applied to you if the CPS do decide to bail you. But of all the people I spoke to, nobody's ever heard of that happening. You don't get, you're on, like Raja is $50,000 bond. That doesn't happen here. You're either bailed without conditions, with conditions, like, avoid the alleged victim, that kind of thing. Or you can be remanded until you are put before a magistrate's court, or whatever court it might be, or Crown Court, whatever it might be. But it'd probably be magistrate's court. Now, the court will then decide whether to further remand or bail. But the main thing here is the arrest that we're talking about. So, with all the video footage circulating that the accused filmed himself, that is more than enough of a reason to arrest Raja Jackson, at least over here. And it should be in the States as well. In fact, everyone I've spoken to, in the police or in law enforcement, that kind of thing, is baffled when presented all the facts of this case so far, that he wasn't arrested the very same night, or the police weren't hunting him out. There's more than an accusation or suspicion of a crime here being committed. It's documented, it's there. There were dozens and dozens of witnesses. I mean, it's as open and shut, once again, case as there's possible to get, quite frankly, because once again, criminals these days, a lot of them are so stupid that they cast their crimes live. Now, you arguably have co-conspirators that you can arrest after the fact, but there is absolutely no reason not to arrest Raja at the earliest possible time. Now, it's very important to arrest as soon as possible for a number of reasons. One, so you can get as much incriminating evidence as possible, including, for example, Raja's phone, before he has a chance to wipe it or destroy it or lose it or any other evidence. I mean, how about, like, a lot can go missing in a month, let's say this, including, cuts and bruises on hands that you would really want to photograph as soon as possible. I mean, they'll all have healed in a month. Also, you can look for evidence of premeditation after the arrest, and a charge has been decided. So the LAPD's excuse for dragging their feet for so long would never wash over here. Also, the police here don't need a warrant for arrest. They don't need a warrant to seize phones or anything like that, after an arrest kind of thing. But also, if they have a decent idea that you are in your own home, for example, they don't need a warrant to bust the door down and arrest you. You can't just hide in your home for that kind of reason. So once again, I know it's different in the States. It's different, state to state as well here and there. But once again, the police over here would just see the suspicion, go and arrest him, kick his door down, and bring him in within, a very short amount of time for this kind of seriousness of an offence. So once again, for me especially, it's bizarre that he wasn't arrested sooner. One more thing to add, in the UK, the police would actually go for the most serious charge that they can reasonably level against the suspect at first. So in this case, the police would most likely charge Raja with attempted murder, and then, or at the very least, grievous bodily harm with intent. Then, after the fact, the police can further arrest the suspect on additional charges if they feel the need to, or if it's warranted. And then the Crown Prosecution Service are going to be the ones to either sort of basically clarify what the charge will be and what they think they could reasonably find somebody guilty for if it goes to trial, I guess. So, they may agree with the police, and let's say if the police said attempted murder, and then the Crown Prosecution Service would say, maybe not. We've seen all the evidence you presented, the police have presented to them. We think GBH with intent is more likely to get a conviction, a reasonable chance of conviction rather than attempted murder, and then we're going to go for that. And then it's the CPS's decision, ultimately, of what to charge somebody. But once again, I don't know how this works in California. That's how it works here. But once again, the idea that, the police don't know what to charge Raja Jackson with, or the level of premeditation, over here, that wouldn't matter. You would establish the level of premeditation after the fact and then further arrest the suspect of it, if they felt that they had basically arrested them for a charge that wasn't serious enough, quite frankly. So once again, this will be based on evidence provided, including interviews conducted by the police. All that will go to the CPS, and they will make the final decision. Anyway, this whole video was all about, and I thought I'd throw in a bit of a factual UK comparison policing as well. But this video is more about how come the Los Angeles Police Department didn't arrest Raja Jackson earlier. Once again, I'm from the UK. I don't understand why. From all the comments I've received from Americans and people who've written to me, and even, lawyers and stuff who've written to me or given their own opinions, none of them know either. So I don't know if this is a case of severe underfunding or just some incompetence, because it's either got to be one or the other. A month between that level of violence and an arrest is, once again, completely unacceptable, regardless of the situation 2 hours beforehand, of whatever Stu did. Look, even if Stu just walked up to him and punched him right in the face, that is not a death sentence in retaliation. Just punch him back 3 or 4 times kind of thing. I mean, that can't be harped on enough as far as I'm concerned. But once again, thank you for watching the video all the way through. I know I've given more background than you probably asked for, but hopefully you found it interesting as I did, actually sort of clarifying all the processes as well. So I will catch you for the next video. I don't say this on every video, but once again, I'm trying to build up this channel. Of course, I'd love to get 100,000. It'd be fantastic. But if you could subscribe, give us a like, and please let me know in the comments what you think as far as, and if you live in California, or especially Los Angeles, you got any dealings with the police there, or, you're part of law enforcement in the States, on the law or order side of things, I'd love to know your thoughts on this, and why the LAPD, once again, they gave Douglas Malo their reasoning, but what do you think of their reasoning as to why it took so long for them to arrest Raja Jackson? That's the video. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you for the next one, which will be quite soon.